What's up, everybody? I'm TJ.
And I'm Kelsey, and we are
the Nashville Wine Duo. All right, it's Georgia time.
Georgia.
Yeah,
Georgia.
We are on a Georgia trip. We have been doing this for almost 3 years now, coming to visit the vineyards in Georgia. And wow, we feel like this is a long time coming. We are finally having Peter Syfarth. Am I saying your last name right?
That was great. Yeah.
On the podcast.
Hey, he's one of our favorite winemakers.
Oh, yes.
At one of our favorite vineyards in
Yes.
Georgia.
Winemaker,
So it's a huge honor.
co-owner of Crane Creek, correct?
Correct. That is very kind words. So thank you.
They're all true. I haven't even started drinking yet.
Wow.
He has. He had a flight earlier.
I can't wait to hear what you say about me after you have a few drinks in you.
So usually the way we go about this, we'll say, so when we first started coming down here, I think we just happened upon you guys by total accident. Because we just were looking up reviews and we were like, let's just visit this place.
I think one of the winemakers maybe recommended we visit Crane Creek.
Oh, no, you're right. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were at Chateau Lawn.
Yep.
Oh, and Simone.
Simone
and, recommended
she's like,
you.
need to go to Crane Creek.
Thanks, Simone. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we were like, okay, and then came here and, I'm not going to lie, I geeked out. I was a little bit too much.
Fangirling
I was
for
fangirling.
sure.
I was fangirling because the wines were so good.
Well, the scenery, it's beautiful here.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing,
Yeah.
like visually, like just stunning. And then the wines are absolutely killer.
Yes. And you feel this, like we were just talking about it before we started, like there's just this like peaceful energy here. Like you just get this like everything is right in the world in this place right now. And I am just relaxing, enjoying this wonderful wine. And, when you visit a lot of wineries and we have around the whole area, like there is a vibe that you're kind of looking for. And I think this place has that vibe of like, I just want to stay here and nothing here is annoying. And I like it. I like everything about it. So we when we came, that's how we felt. And we just fell in love with it. And it's always been our place that we stop by on the way home because it just puts us on a good end to our trip.
Yep.
And so why don't we just start with you and you just tell us like from the beginning how this whole thing happened, tell us about yourself, and
Sure, absolutely. Well, first, I just want to say thanks again for having me on the podcast and for those kind words. And, that's really, I love that you have that experience here because that's really what, we hope anybody who comes here feels that. It's just a place that that people can come and just kind of unplug a little bit and just relax.
Yeah.
So it's just really nice to hear you say that. But yeah, just to, I guess, give an introduction. My name is Peter Syfarth again. I'm the winemaker here at Crane Creek Vineyards, one of the owners. My father started the vineyard back in 1995. So there were virtually no vineyards in the 90s here in Georgia. The first vineyard was Habersham, and they started, I think, in the 80s, I believe. But really, there was a handful of vineyards that kind of all started around the same time. That was right around 1995. And my father was one of those pioneers in the Georgia wine industry. So started in 1995 and just have slowly grown over the years and continuing to grow. So he first fell in love with wine. He lived in Italy for about 10 years. He was stationed over there while in the Army. And that's kind of where he fell in love with wine. And then when he retired from the Army, he decided, hey, why not give this a shot up in the North Georgia mountains? There's some similar terroir to the northeast of Italy, which is where he was stationed. And so he wanted to try out, how can I make, some mountain influenced wines in Georgia. And really he based his, everybody kind of based their model, the ones that first started, off of Virginia. Because Virginia has a similar terroir to us. just the Appalachian Mountains in general. And so their model is kind of where we based ourselves off of. Craig, Doug Paul of Three Sisters, my dad, they actually all went on a trip up to Virginia. That's kind of where they started and tried to build off of their momentum. So,
wow.
Yeah. And now, we're 28 years in, and it's really becoming quite the industry. Last I heard, we're definitely over 100 vineyards in Georgia. When my father started, there was like 5. So,
wow, that's crazy.
So like in 25 years, it's really took off. So
yeah, I mean, we were even driving around yesterday, and there was tour buses.
Oh,
wine tour buses.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
All different kind of companies now. Like
absolutely, and I'd be just like so curious. Like, I mean, I don't even think we've even scratched the surface of tapping into the market of Atlanta. Like, I feel like if you go to like any random person on the street in Atlanta and you're like, hey, do you know that there's wine in Georgia? Like, I'm not sure how many people would even know potentially that there's wine and good wine.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really just, it's a growth market for sure.
It's actually true, because my uncle, he met up with us at Frogtown yesterday, and he said, I had no idea any of this even existed.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's from Georgia.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
It's like, wow.
So how do you get the word out? I mean, like, there's a whole audience there, and obviously people love wine. So how do you reach those people and tell them, like, hey, there's...
Well, people like you, for one, that's huge. It's just, like getting in front of the wine consumer and saying, because of course there's different types of wine consumers, right? And so getting in front of the specific wine consumer and saying, hey, we have something that you'd like. We have something, I promise. Come visit us. Like, we will show you something that you really, really like. And just slow growth.
Yeah.
Just over time. And it's really, really blowing up. I mean,
word of mouth.
Word of mouth is huge.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is absolutely huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even for us, that's kind of been a lot of it too. It's like people that we talk to, we meet, and they tell people, it's like, you can't really expect to just like put something out there and then everyone's just going to come attracted to it. It's like, you really have to like do the groundwork in real time and like make relationships and meet people and like prove yourself as a business, like have people come here, have a good experience, have a good interaction with a staff member. And that has to happen multiple times, and then the people will come back. So it's a everyday process of making the right decisions, and like we looked on, if you go on your Google reviews, you guys have like, compared to some of the other wineries that have just as many ratings as y'all do on Google, you guys have like a 4.8.
Killing it.
So, I mean,
we're really grateful for that.
That says something.
But it starts though, like what I was saying earlier, like you drive on the grounds and it's beautiful, then you come into one of the tasting rooms because there are multiple on the property. Then the wine is awesome.
Right.
Then you interact with the staff. They're all friendly and educated, and they can make great. So it's from start to finish.
Yeah.
Crane Creek has delivered an exceptional experience.
And then they have Paris and Company, which is like this brilliant freaking brunch spot.
Yeah,
so it's like
Nina and Sid do such a good job.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
you can spend all day here and just be 100% happy.
It's like a trifecta. It's like it's got everything going for it.
Yeah.
But and there's also a lot of other things that like set you apart, which every time we've met with you, you've talked about like the hybrid grapes and how that is really like a passion of yours. And
I hang my hat on the hybrid.
Yeah.
Sure.
So why don't you like dive into that and how you really like?
Yeah, absolutely. So so for the listener who doesn't know what a hybrid grape is, I'll just kind of give like a basic breakdown, just a really quick explanation. So really, there needs to be historical context. So in the late 1800s, there was this crisis that was called the phylloxera crisis. So this was a pest that originated in the Americas and then traveled overseas via boats because they were like, oh, I'm going to plant some of these new American grapes in Europe. So they brought them over to try them out and planted them. Well, what did that do? It brought over phylloxera. So phylloxera lives in the roots. Well, the reproductive cycle of of phylloxera is in the roots. And it decimated, horrifically just destroyed the European wine industry. And they were, freaking out, like they were going to lose all their grapes. And so they were scrambling to figure out, okay, how can we save this? And so originally they would crossbreed the European varieties with the American varieties to try to create some vines that were resistant to this pest. And so that's what we call the French American hybrids. So there's these different camps of hybrids, and the French American hybrid are those ones that were hybridized in Europe in order to combat that. Ultimately, though, a guy named T.B. Munson out of Texas, I believe, discovered with grafting that you could solve the problem. So now 99.9% of vines in the world are grafted onto American rootstock. So they're grafted onto rootstock that is of American origins, and that allows them to survive phylloxera. But those hybrids still exist. So we still have those hybrids that not only are resistant to phylloxera, but they're also resistant to a buttload of other pests, mostly fungus. And so what does that mean? It means that they're more resilient to global warming. They're more resilient to the pressures of different pests. They require less spraying. They're just more sustainable in general. And that's why I love hybrids. But the biggest challenge I've had is getting over the hump of, oh, well, this isn't the classic European grape. So, it's not worthy of fine wine. So, which I very much disagree with. As a testament, we're drinking our estate Chambourcin, which is personally one of my favorite wines that I've made. And you can make a classic old world European dry, complex wine out of hybrid grapes. You just can. And I'll go to bat to that. Anybody.
Yeah.
Come try my wine and let me change your mind if you think that, you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very, very passionate about hybrids. My father really pushed hybrids when everybody back then poo-pooed him. And so I literally was brought up with this underdog story of these hybrid grapes. And so it's just even more invigorating to me because I just want to continue pushing that,
Well, he's passed the baton to you.
Exactly.
Like, hey, you run the race now. You tell the story. You get people hooked on it.
And there's a story to tell.
Yeah.
And there's a story to tell for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. And now we're just now scratching the surface. There's some really great winemakers doing some really amazing in the fine wine world using hybrid grapes. And it's just really, really starting to scratch the surface. So.
How many French American hybrids do you think, varietal wise? Like, are we talking?
There's so many. So, there's a handful of popular ones. So I can go through some of the popular ones. The ones that we grow, Chambourcin is a really, really popular one that's grown on the East Coast a lot. And a lot of times vineyards will grow Chambourcin and then just put it into their cheap blend, like cheap fruity, maybe even sweet blend. And they don't really give it the love that it deserves, in my opinion. But there are some, of course, East Coast wineries that are really focusing on it and trying to make some really finessed Chambourcins. And then Chardonnay, I love Chardonnay. We'll be harvesting it next week, probably. You can make some just super lush, like barrel fermented, really structured whites out of it.
And that's Enoto, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Chardonnay is super nice. There's some crazy random ones too. Like we grow a grape called Vineyard Noir. There's a lot of places that grow Vineyard Blanc, but we grow Vineyard Noir, which is a red version of that grape. And I've yet to find anybody else that's growing it.
Wow.
If anyone's out there, hit me up because I can't find. We got it from a nursery. The nursery that we got it from stopped making it because no one would buy it, and so now we're trying to do new plantings, and we just have to graft our own.
Right.
Wow.
We have to propagate our own
Because you can't find it anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really cool, and it's nice because I feel like I'm saving this grape. Yeah. But we make a rosé out of it. So I have made a red out of it, and I actually don't like the red, but the rosé, oh man, it's killer. It's so good. And that's what's the
Old Man.
Old Man rosé.
Yes.
That one of our just so good. Just such a good rosé.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that 100%?
So it depends on the year.
Yeah.
It depends on the year. I think that one has Vidal in it too.
Okay.
Yeah. So Vidal Blanc is another hybrid. Vidal Blanc kind of has more rep though in the fine wine world because of ice wine in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So ice wine is made predominantly from Vidal Blanc, which is a hybrid.
Yeah.
But Vidal is super, super, super nice. Super great. Yeah. It's a great grape. Yeah.
Wow. Such a cool story. I think I love like the underdog aspect of it too.
Me too. Yeah.
And like like we're going to be kind of pioneers in something. And, because I think we can look a lot around the world around us and be like, oh, there's not a lot left to discover and to see, and it's like, I think you were the one that I quote often where you're like, or maybe it was Jess, your wife, like once you start to dive into the world of wine and you think you know a lot, you realize you know nothing.
Yeah.
And
true.
one of you said that. I don't know which one. But that's always really stuck with me. And I've repeated that to people too. And it's our journey, it's totally different than your journey, but we are still doing it in a totally different way, but we're in the wine world.
Yeah.
And the more I dive in, the more I'm like, wow, like it's just, there are so many things happening. And,
it's true.
I felt like we even learned on this trip a lot of how, like the winemaking process in America is very tailored to Americans.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
A lot of like it's almost like they're making that's almost the same thing, same kind of grape, same kind of wine, but they're making it different for Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is the alcohol content being higher here versus in Europe, it's a lot lower because they're kind of trying to not be, they're wanting to enjoy it more with food and have it take longer and not feel like shit.
Yes.
And here it's like, we see the American consumer is, they want more, they want it bigger, they want it sugary, they want it fruitier, they want it more alcohol because they want to get drunk quicker. And you're like, wow, you're seeing this whole aspect of like, who's out there for it for the right reasons, who's out there doing it because it's become this massive industry that some people, it's like, are they out for it to make money? Or are they really doing it because they have this passion? And like, that's why I think I've loved you guys from the beginning is like, you are doing it for all the right reasons because you love it, because you're passionate about it, because you're farmers, you're wanting to make a product that is superb and not something that you're just like, oh, well, we just want to make people just give something to somebody so we can make money. That's not how it is. And
yeah. No, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, we definitely make sacrifices in profit for making the wine that we want to make.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, without a doubt we do. So, not to, hate on anybody who, if someone wants a profitable business, more profitable business, hey, more power to you.
Right.
But yeah.
But I want to know what I'm drinking. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
and I think that's kind of like through doing this process too, we've met more and more people that are advocating for more transparency with winemaking. Yes. And I feel like that's what I mean when I'm like, see these big box people, it's like, there's just not a lot of transparency and it's a lot of like kind of a marketing technique to get people to drink certain things. And then they're like, oh, whatever. And then they don't really know what's in it. They don't really know the process.
Yeah. And you're right in terms of, cause like in Europe, there's lots of regulation, there's lots of red tape, and that's how they get that, that guarantee of whatever it is that you're buying, right? But in America, there's way less of that. And so really it comes down to what you guys are doing. It comes down to you guys, meeting the winemakers, talking to them and trusting the specific winemakers and then relaying that to your audience.
Yeah.
Like that's how you it's much harder to have that, that regulatory body in America as they do in Europe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it really comes down to how do we educate the consumer, on what they're buying.
Yeah.
Right. And then some people, which we've talked to you about this before, like don't want to be educated and they don't care.
Yeah.
And they just want to drink something that's
Yes.
good. And that's totally fine
That's
too.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
you could be a big old nerd like me, or you can just chill out and enjoy a glass of wine.
Yeah.
I'm still learning how to do that, but
yeah. But you want to drink wine that makes you feel better?
Yeah.
You get it from a place like this. Like
Exactly.
if I'm, in my opinion, I mean, that's just how I feel.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, tell us where you have this bottle open.
Yeah. Let's
The
talk about this
Chamberson.
bottle.
Yeah. So this is so this is the Estate Chamberson. It's really just kind of really a distillation of what I was talking about, of kind of, like I'm making, this and the Hellbender are like our top shelf reds, and they're hybrids.
They're both phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the Chamberson, would you say, like, for people that are listening, like compared to like a Cabernet or something like that? I mean, this is a medium to full bodied kind of grape, right? I mean, you're definitely getting.
It's definitely like medium bodied. I mean, it's gonna have almost like that high acid Alpine red that you may get in more Germanic reds, or just that, like, that higher altitude, lower alcohol, higher acidity.
Gotcha.
Definitely structured. So it's going to have that, that high acid and low pH that is going to allow it to, age nicely. It has really high anthocyanin content, which is the color, and that really helps with aging as well.
What word did you just say?
Anthocyanins.
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 Dang.
That's a new one for me.
Giants.
I'm going to just say that around town.
Yeah, throw that out, and then you can fool people like me, fooling you that I know what I'm talking about.
Well, actually, the other day, somebody came in to Trader Joe's where I work, and she said, she was like, I guess she works at some like really like nice like wine restaurant, and she said, I want something that's fruity and woodsy. And I'm like, okay. I actually think this one might be not necessarily fruity in my opinion, but it's woodsy. It kind of is woodsy. Like I picture myself in the woods drinking this wine.
It's got earthy.
It's
elements.
got, well, it just a remind, like I literally, my mind immediately went to a forest. Like, I don't know why, but it just did.
It has, it's not like in super aggressive oak. I think
and I don't mean oaky at all. It's weird.
Sure,
I don't know.
It's like it has that spice. It has that, crushed leaves of fall. It definitely has that vibe for sure.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
So what about the label on this one? What is it?
So this is the barn being built.
Okay.
I forget the year.
Were you born yet?
No, this is my dad might have been. I don't know. No, this is like 1920s, 30s.
So the thing about Crane Creek too, Peter, they do some awesome labels on their wine.
Shout out to Jess.
Jess
does some amazing labels.
I mean, just like.
So she does all the labels, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. So how are y'all doing? What's going to be in the future?
What's in the future? Well, right now it's just crazy because it's harvest. So it's just like I'm running around just like a madman.
When do you think you'll start? Because I know you mentioned.
So we're probably like a third of the way through.
Okay.
We almost have all the whites in.
Nice.
Like I said, the Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Chardonnay can hang super long, and it just keeps all that acidity really well. So it can hang really, really, really long. And because I do a barrel ferment on the Chardonnay, I like the pH has to get up to a certain point for me to do some specific fermentation practices.
Yeah.
And so I like just to let it hang, get it super nice and, ripe. Super ripe. And Chardonnay is great for that. But like the Zusa, for instance, is fermenting right now. It's really, really nice. Yeah. The Gruner this year turned out super, super well. And so.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Were you
great.
affected by any hail or anything up in this region? Like, how was the turnaround for like fruit and stuff? Pretty
So
good this year?
yeah, for us, we fared like fairly well. The biggest cross to bear for us up in the mountains here is frost.
Yeah.
So spring frost. That's when we're most. That's the scariest time for us because we can lose a lot of yield. But we fared really well. The whole East Coast got hit though pretty hard this year. Of course, there's places that fare better than others, but from what I've heard, just the whole East Coast was hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
But luckily we fared. We did lose some yield on the Norden, so there's going to be yield reduction for the Hellbender for the 2023 Hellbender. Yeah.
Yeah, because we were an hour from here in Dahlonega, and they said they really dealt with hail damage this year. And
Like
it really
bad.
affected their crops and stuff like that. So I know you guys are
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
No.
like bad.
We've never once experienced damage from hail here. So
that was the first I had heard of
Yeah.
something like that.
No,
But
that's
yeah.
crazy.
So
I was just in Tuscany like a couple of months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, and they're having crazy hail issues right now.
really,
Yeah. I was in like the Siena area.
Well, they're attributing a lot of this to like global warming, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask if anybody's a climate denier. Ask any grape grower or wine grower.
Like it's happening.
and we will tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
It's very apparent to our industry.
Yeah. That's what we've heard.
Yeah. So, but that's what's very cool about hybrids. Is because hybrids are much more resilient.
That's what you said.
Much more resilient to that change than vinifera. What's really cool too is in Europe now. Check this out. Probably a lot of people don't know what this is. It's called Piwi wines, Piwi, and Google that up. It's this really cool program. It's in Northeast Italy. I think it's also in other countries as well, but they're specifically doing modern day hybridization, but specifically for Europe. So that way they're making new hybrids, but like modern day hybrids, but for Europe now. So it's hybrids. I'm telling you guys, hybrids, the steam, like
we're on the hybrid train, man. We're with you.
Yeah, dude.
We're like a passenger.
The train has left the station, and mark my word, in like the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be like a really big deal, I think.
Yeah.
So,
But you do feel kind of like, I know you've said this before, like we talked about, like maybe, like I don't know, do you think like a lot of people in the wine world think that it's like a joke, pretty much?
Oh, the grapes?
Yeah.
I think not a joke, but it just wasn't taken seriously.
Yeah.
I just think they were just like, oh, okay, yeah, like they would think of it as if like how like a winemaker would think of like blueberry wine or something.
Right.
It's just like not even something that they're like considering as like on the level of scrutiny, let's say, that you would put onto, it's just a different category in their mind. Right.
But you told us this has been going on for like a very long time. You told us about the movie.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's been happening for a long time.
It's been happening a very long time. And what's really cool, like, so our grape Norden that is in Hellbender, the history of that is so fascinating. I suggest reading a book. It's called The Wild Vine. I believe it's called The Wild Vine. I forget her name, but she has the vineyard called Chrysalis, which is in Virginia. It's not her book, but she's followed in this book in her story, and it's all about Norden. It's all about this grape Norden, and just the history of it through America is just so fascinating. I definitely recommend it. And basically it was lost due to Prohibition. Prohibition basically just like chopped it off at its knees. And just now in the past, 15, 20 years,
It's making a comeback.
Yeah. And so now I like to think that we're one of the in contender of like the top, 5 to 10 producers of Norden right now. So
that's insane.
So it's really, really cool grape, really cool history. Yeah.
So the operation here has obviously grown a lot. And every time we come here too, we do talk about how like your family moved from like house to house, and now they've become tasting rooms, which I think is like fascinating.
Peter's lived all over
Very
the property.
Cool.
I've lived in every house. Yeah.
So how many total have you lived in?
Let's see. So we first moved here. It was just the farmhouse.
Mm-hmm.
So the 1887 farmhouse, the original tasting room, right? So that was the only one on property. So it was just me, my brother, and my parents. We moved up here in 95. I was 6 months old, and basically just lived in that old farmhouse for the first really 4 to 5 years as my dad started planting the vines, and just slowly, it takes years to get this going. So, and then Holly Hill, which is where Paris and Company's building. So that was the next building that was built. Yeah. And that's where we lived. And then we turned the farmhouse into the tasting room.
And that's this French restaurant that you have.
Exactly. So now this is Paris and Company, which is the restaurant that leases the space from us. And that's Sid and Nina, and they do amazing food. Amazing food. So if for nothing else, come visit us so you can try their food.
So, like for real? Okay, like no lie. Like we're from Nashville, and we brought some people from Nashville, and all of us were like, you can't get this kind of food in Nashville. Like you can't get this good of a breakfast.
Oh, their brunch? Oh my God.
Like it's just like mind blowing. Like we were with a man, the people that were with, he's a man of few words, and he was like, oh my God. Like,
he took a bite this morning and he just made this sound, and she was like, oh, it's that good.
Yeah, she said, oh, you never do that. I was like, okay. So like, no lie, if you come here, like it's great on a Sunday here today, because it's like, okay, the winery doesn't open till 1.
Yep.
You make a reservation because they will be packed.
Yep.
And the lobster bisque. I had lobster bisque for breakfast.
Their lobster bisque?
It's off the freaking chain.
So good.
Chunks of lobster. And like this guy too that I was telling you about, he said he's allergic to lobster, and he's like, oh, let me try it anyway. It's fine.
Wow. It's that good.
It's that good. Anyway.
He was willing to die for it.
But yeah. So then the next house after that you lived in.
Next house. My grandparents, they built a house that's right next to that restaurant.
Yeah.
And that was a rental property for a little bit, but now Jess and I actually live there.
Okay, cool.
But my family lived in there while we turned the Paris and Company building just to an event space. And so I lived there, and then this was built, the stone house. So this is this we lived in, but it was always in the back of my parents' head. They were like, this would probably be good in tasting room. So the design is very much lends itself to a nice tasting room.
So did they design it, you think, like that on purpose? Like we'll live here for a bit, but then it'll be a tasting room?
Knowing my dad, yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, it's always, he's thinking about it in that way, which I admire about him. He's always thinking forward in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the stone house was built. We lived here for a number of years. Of course, I went off to college.
Yeah.
And I was, doing it, but my parents lived here. And then I think it was 2021. Yeah, 2 years ago, we officially opened this as the new tasting room, and event space as well.
Yeah.
And
it's great because it's like you get a different vantage point from like each one of these spots. Mm-hmm. So like, from the restaurant, you can sit outside in the back and you get this beautiful view of the vineyard. And then you go to the other tasting room where it's like a little bit further down, and you get this gorgeous view of like the pond and like looking up towards the vineyard. And then you come up here and you're looking down on everything, which I'm like, it's another thing that's also very unique about this space is like, you're getting different vantage points from this vineyard, and you're able to very experience the whole vineyard. Like it's very walkable.
Yep.
You do walk up a hill to get here, but you could also drive your car up here. So you don't have to walk if you are. So I feel like you guys, you're also very, accessible for people that might have a wheelchair or things like that.
Absolutely.
Like they can go to, different areas. And I really appreciate that too. I feel like you guys have really thought about the space to make it accommodating for any kind of person.
Sure, absolutely.
So, I mean, you'd agree with that, right?
100%.
Yeah. So I love that. And I love seeing it from all the different angles.
Yeah. If I erased my brain and I, was coming here for the first time, like I think the best experience would be to come up here to the Stonehouse first, get a tasting and really get introduced to the wines, enjoy that tasting, and then grab a glass of your favorite, and then
or a bottle. Let's not be cheap, man.
Or a bottle. No. And then I would stroll down through the vineyard, of course.
Yeah.
Through the pond, past the ponds. I would then go check out the farmhouse market.
Yep.
There's lots of really, really great curated options there. Lots of food options there just for snacks and stuff. But check out the old farmhouse. And then I would go have dinner at Paris and Company.
Totally.
And that's the move.
That sounds like a perfect day.
But that's the thing too. It's like like what you're saying, you've thought about it. It's like, it's so thought out to be like, from the beginning of when you get here, you can experience all these different things in one place. And it feels very, I don't know. It's like, it's almost just like, it feels really big, but then it feels really small. It's like, it's wild. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but
it's a magical place.
It's a magical place. So yeah, we just want everybody to come here. And we've been talking about this for the past couple of years. We've actually, a lot of people have told us they've come here after we've talked to them about it and been like blown away by it. And
we get messages a lot after we've showcased you guys.
Oh, great.
Like, we're here at Crane Creek. Like,
that's amazing.
So
that's so exciting.
Definitely, if you love good wine, good scenery, good people, you have to come check out Crane
And just
Creek.
a place, like what we said in the very beginning, a place that you can come. And if you want to just get away from it all, like relax your mind, like just feel like you're in nature and also, but in just this great setting where you're just, you're enjoying your time. And I feel like that's been, every time I'm out here, I'm like, I just don't want to leave. So, I mean, if you're looking for that, you should visit.
Easy drive from Nashville, 4 hours.
4 hours, and you
Atlanta,
get to drive on the
Co-Owner.
We've talked about that with you.
Yeah.
So where does everyone find you? Like, tell them
all the
where.
socials.
Tell them all the socials and all the place and where we are right now.
Absolutely. So Crane Creek Vineyards, you can really follow us on Facebook or Instagram. That's where we're most active. That's just at Crane Creek Vineyards. And also check out our website, because our website has a lot of information, gives a really great history. Jess actually just updated our history tab, and it's so good. And you get like a really great timeline of where we started and now, to where we are now. And then also, if you enjoy our wines, we have a really great wine club that's really, really popular. And you basically commit to a case a year. And so there's 4 shipments of 3 wines, and you just buy the wine. There's no extra cost. And you just buy the wine. That's it. You just to be buy in the club. Exactly. Yep. You just buy the wine, and you can pick the wines up. So you can schedule to pick it up. We have pickup parties. So you can come if you're in the area, but of course we ship it if you can't come and pick up. And then you get all these added benefits. You get 10% off everything flat if you're a club member. So basically, a lot of times people just show up and they're like, hey, like, I love your wine. And they're like, well, if you just want to be part of the club, you get 10% off like everything right now. Yeah. And that stacks with half case and full case discounts. So if you enjoy our wine, I mean, that's the best bang for your buck for sure.
Yes.
So definitely check out the wine club.
100%.
And that's on the website. Yeah.
Well, and actually after everything we experienced, we're going to wrap this up, but all the other wineries we went to and then we came here, I was just like, man, like the tasting, your all's tasting value for what you get. I mean, it's great. Like you guys, I mean, the prices here, that's another thing. Like you're getting quality, quantity for a great price.
That is my goal, is to not have the price creep to like crazy numbers. You know? Like I always want to be giving you value at a fair price.
Yeah. And I think that's great. So, well, thank you so much for doing this with us today.
Absolutely.
And everyone just come check out Crane Creek and Young Harris. It's a great drive. You can stay around this area. There's a lot of other, places to go and see, but this is the place to be. So, yeah.
Well said, David. Cheers, Peter. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.